Dr. Apurba is scientist and associate professor in the Department of Computer Science and Technology, ICDEC-2022. He has done his bachelor's in computer science and engineering from the University of Apurba in the year 2001 and subsequently completed master's degree in computer science and engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati in the year 2003. He has obtained a PhD degree in Computer Science and Engineering from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Apurba. His hobby is interested in digital geometry, discrete and computational geometry, algebraic and computational topology. Dr. Dipak Kole is a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Sarkar Government Engineering College, Perspective. Dipak received a PhD degree in engineering from Apurba Engineering and Science University, which is currently known as IISD, Chittoor, in India, in the year 2012. He also received an MTech and MTech in Computer Science and Engineering and PhD in Mathematics honors from Calcutta University. He has approximately 19 years of professional experience. Dr. Kole is a faculty member of the Computer Science and Engineering Department. Government Engineering College in 2014, where he is currently working as a professor. Now I would like to give the technical session to you. Thank you, sir.
So we are starting the technical session. First paper is the title of the paper is Correlation Analysis of Stock Index Data Feature Correlation Analysis of Stock Index Data Features using sequential rule mining algorithms. Okay, so this paper is co-authored by Pankaj Kumar Dev Sharma. So now Nainjyoti, you can start your presentation. So you will be given 10 minutes for the presentation and 2 minutes for.
I'm feeling a bit nervous, so just after present something, just after scientist. Anyways, I will try to present my paper. My paper ID is 23, and I'm a new learner from the Department of Computer Science, Assam. So my topic is correlation analysis of stock index data features using sequential rule mining algorithms under the guidance of Professor Pankaj Kumar Dev Sharma. These are my brief presentation outline. Our objective: introduction, important definitions, stock index data, stock data analysis tactics, sequence mining algorithms, environmental setup, collection and spreadsheet of data, the prior algorithm, experimental results analysis, discussion, conclusion, feature, and the results. Now, these are my four overall objectives: to study different capital market segments in India and explore different features associated with stock index data, and correlation study of these features using sequential rule mining algorithms, and to analyze these algorithms for data structure, storage, and SQL reduction techniques, and finally to explore application for sequential mining algorithms on different applications. Now, introduction. Time plays a very important role during the occurrence of open event. Different events may occur simultaneously or events may occur one after another. When there are multiple events, they will follow some pattern. So sequence mining algorithm does the discovery and visualization of some interesting patterns from the sequence data. And there are lots of data sequential examples like customers buying patterns, play blocks, social media contents, financial transactions, and many others. So we have taken the stock index data for last 25 years to apply that sequential mining algorithms to find some rules and rules. So some important definitions. What is sequence? A sequence is basically an ordered list of events. Suppose there are two events C and H. Suppose these two are not equal. CH is not equal to HC because it occurs some time. So based on the time, the sequence has been tested. So if a sequence contains n numbers of items, then it is called an n items in sequence. Suppose there are 4 numbers of items in a sequence, then it will be 4 items in sequence. We call it as LN sequence. That means L1, L2, L3 like that. And frequent sequence is a maximum sequence. We call some frequencies frequent when it satisfies some user-defined minimum sum. Suppose a sequence is occurring 10 times, and the user has given some support count is 50, so it will not be frequent. If it gives say 5, then that means it already satisfies. So it's a frequent sequence. And maximum frequencies are those sequences which satisfy the minimum mean sum and do not satisfy some higher mean sum. We consider these 4 parameters: support, confidence, and lift for our study. So support means it is the frequency of occurrence of any sequence, and confidence means how 2 or more sequences are occurring together. And lift defines that suppose some rules are generated with the help of this sequence finding algorithms, and lift defines how much important the rules are. So these are some mathematical formulations. Now we consider the stock index data. So stock the capital market is a financial instrument in which in India NSE defines the capital market segments, and Nifty is one of the popular index that contains these subsections. We consider Nifty 50 data for our slide. For analyzing this stock market data, there are several techniques like that fundamental technical analysis, moving averages, parabolic chart, and RSI. These are all common type of analysis techniques. Some other recent techniques are used: support vector machines, KMS clustering, decision trees, Bayesian approach, C4 card. These are all used for stock market analysis. But the observation is that these give some average estimate of that stock index data, and it ignores some intra and inter-relation among some participating features. So, moreover, some of the algorithms are very complex to implement, and they do not consider sequential behaviors. So, we consider for our study this many of algorithms. So, basically, the sequential algorithms last 20 years, lots of algorithms have been developed from starting from 1994. So, these are the examples of some sequential mining algorithms. We have taken the appraisal solution, appraisal, and its variants for our study. So for implementing other concepts for our study, we have the environment database, compilers and debuggers. We have used an open access programming Anaconda library with Python 3.5 with Jupyter Notebook and JavaScript part here. And ID we have used JSON library, VS Code, Notepad, and MS Office. And for hardware configurations, we have used i7 and i20. And we have also in our department we are having supercomputers, so we are trying to implement all this concept in our supercomputing computers. Now, collection and preparation of the data. We have collected 6,221 data of last 25 years, starting from the year 1997 to 2021. So, a total of 6,221 records have been collected, and we have considered 7 major features. Previous days closing price, today's high price, today's low price, and that total number of shares traded and the turnover. And for that, actually, data basically possesses some noise. To remove this, we have collected the data, then integrated the data, then we have used some cleaning mechanisms to clean the data, and finally get the sequence data set to implement the algorithms. So initially data is in numerical format, but in numerical format sequence data cannot be implemented. So we first of all we convert this data into some sequences based on some percentage change of the data. So accordingly we have made some sequence data set to implement the algorithm. So these are some of the abbreviations we have used. Low is very high, that means when the low value, suppose today's value is low and it is very high, less than some percentage. Accordingly, we have considered several measures to test the sequences. Now, how the approval algorithm works? It is basically candidate generation and test strategy. First of all, suppose there is one sequence, we generate all the subsequences, and accordingly, the subsequences are tested against their frequency of occurrence. So, suppose the user has given some minimum support, based on that support, some sequences are pulled down. Accordingly, first of all, that L1 sequences are generated, and L2 sequences are generated, like that Ln sequences are generated. That means length of all sequences are generated first, and using that minimum support, these are pulled down. Now, extent of the algorithm is that the search space at this decreases because during successive iterations, most of the data has been pulled down. There is some minimum data remaining, so that minimizes the search space decrease. And the weakness is that it has to scan the database again and again, and also it has to manage huge number of candidate sequences in the middle. Now, this is what we algorithm. It's a pass-wise iteration. In fast was the L1 sequences are generated, and in fast 2 L2 sequences generated, and there has been some user-defined minimum support. Some are pulled out, and whatever data has like satisfies the MINSA, these have been tested against that weakness or strongness of that rules. Now, test and results on that data set, whatever we have collected, we have implemented the applied algorithm and find that first of all L1 sequences is generated, like L2 sequence. L1 means only one sequence. L2 means two sequences. Then like that, Ln sequences are generated. And here we have generated the number of large and frequent maximum sequences. In our study, we have taken that these are all minimum supports. Suppose 0% support have given L1 as in L1 30 sequences satisfies when we give 5% of support, then it satisfies up to 30. Likewise, the L1, L2, L3, but different supports we can get the large and maximum. So we calculate the standard average of the, that means that market movements find that average movements of that. Suppose we have considered previous close value with that very high. That means average of 1191 times that value.
So these records are each individual shares that you.
Yes. No, actually we have considered that Nifty index data, that main index data.
So for each shares you have considered those.
Not each shares, that whole index. That Nifty 50 we have considered 622 letters. So previous year's closing very high, it was 1191 times. Average high, it was like 1403 times, like that. All we have considered. Based on that average value, we can say something that whether it is performing well or not. Suppose today, suppose something is closing above this one, tomorrow white might be the price, like that. Basically, the prediction.
So prediction for individual shares you will be giving, or
no,
about the market?
Okay.
That index.
Total 50 share.
Yes, Nifty scale they consider 50 shares. Yes,
50 shares.
Yes, Nifty they consider 50 shares. Now, occurrence frequency of various instances. So we have using that sequential rule mining algorithms appraisal, we have considered find the occurrence frequency of all of the features. We have considered that for this opening very high, on previous close very high, 1040, like that, all we have calculated. And accordingly, we have find the confidence. More the confidence means when the confidence is more, that means it is likely that it will be opening in the category. Suppose today's yesterday's closing value is high is very high. In that case, there is a chance that the market will open in the next day in a very high position. Like.
So you have already exceeded your time. So
okay, sir. Just 2 minutes.
Another 1 minute.
Okay, sir. Now, analysis of the results. The main thing is Actually, based on that support and confidence, when the high confidence is high, that means there is a chance that the market will open in a higher price. So that is what actually my prediction is. So similar type of I have given. So one thing I want to mention. In that algorithmic view, what happened when the data set grows, it number of candidates has also been grown. But in some questions, it may happen that some common sequences are generated because when the data set grows vertically, that means there is a chance that more common sequences will be generated. And in that case, the graph shows that there is a linear decrease in number of individual sequences. So it is basically for sequence lattice. When the data set grows, that it is grows exponentially. Suppose there are n number of sequences, then there will be n minus 1 number of sequences generated. So it's a huge number. So basically it is an NP-hard problem. So why we do not use that machine learning, SVM or neural network in this study, because they are very complex to implement. At the same time, they do not consider that sequence behaviors. So to find the occurrence frequency, we use that sequence mining and Apurba. So in conclusion part, I want to say that Apurba is implemented to study the correlation among different features of the database. So finally, you can say that with higher confidence, we can find better result for that predictions. So future plan have to study some application possible sequence mining algorithms and to study data structures, business scan prediction techniques and sequence mining, and preparation of a survey part that is already been communicated, and preparation of an analysis of sequence mining algorithm using hash and try, which is database structure we are trying, that is communicated by NITC survey part and is being explained. And finally, preparation of a paper on the comparative study of time space complexity of sequence mining algorithms. These are some of the references I have used for our study.
Okay,
So any questions from?
you can take one question.
So I have a question. And how your model is predicted for the people who increase the market? It is predicted that today you can go for the derivative marketing and you can put these things and get the signal because it's saying that support is there, so tomorrow it's can be going high.
Yes, sir. Actually, the confidence, it is not like that 100% it will be okay.
Because always saying share market is unpredictable, but how your model can prediction what is there?
Actually, in 620 221 data, we have tested that more than 80% times it is been predicted well.
As you check every day market is particular.
It's a last 20 years that I have tested.
The last 20 years
Yes.
you have checked from this.
Yes.
And your model is satisfactory. How much percentage of support is the say that particular predicted today and tomorrow that's increased? Anytime your model is not support like that or every day particular model predicted. So
No, sir. Because market depends on more. Sometimes it depends on the news also.
Yeah.
News based mood based is also there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it fails. Depends. I have to accept that. Sometimes it is fail because yesterday
some RBI
yes,
do some
suppose repo rate or something like that just come and suddenly it has market will fall. So this may happen. Sir.
Yes,
So
that's
100% I am not like.
I would say this.
If China and Taiwan war
Yeah,
starts
but
again,
sometimes companies also. That's why it's very.
Except somewhere I have mentioned that one, sir. Actually,
okay. So
It's very.
one line I mentioned.
okay, so
The paper I have
we
mentioned
are,
that.
we are actually beyond the time. So we cannot take up more questions because he has already exceeded his allocated time. So let us thank him for his presentation.
So next presenter, Bhubaneswar Das, whose paper ID is 27, and title of the paper is CRF Best POS Tagging Approach for Vishnu Priya Manipuri Language. Okay, Bhuvaneshwar Das, you just present your paper.
So good morning all. I'm going to present a paper titled Asia US for
Just use my.
Is it very best export language? Do a computational work like for the language like Vishnu Priya Manipuri? It is very challenging because no linguistic resources is available. For carrying out this work, we have created our own corpus by collecting some raw text data from Vishnu Priya Manipuri version of Wikipedia and then some magazines. We have created our own dataset, and from that dataset, we have experimental US tagging approach. US tagging actually is the objective here is to label each word of this sentence to its lexical categories, whether it is a noun or a verb or an adjective. That is our objective. And for that purpose, we have used the conditional random field method. These are the outlines of my presentation. Introduction to Vishnu Priya Manipuri language, and then a brief introduction to part of speech tagging, and then text set we have used during the corpus design, and then a little bit of literature survey, and then a brief introduction to conditional random field, and then our proposed architecture, and then what libraries we have used during the experiments, and then experimental results, and then finally the conclusions and future works. So the Vishnu Priya Manipuri language falls under the Indo-Aryan language, and originally the language was restricted to the Loktak lake of Manipur and some nearby areas like Bishnupur and then Herat, etc. And there are mainly two dialects available. One is Madaigang and another is Razarke. And these two are the available dialects for Vishnu Priya Manipuri languages. And these dialects are not restricted only to these specific areas. They also existed in some other nearby areas also. And the language is practically dead due to lack of hence linguistic resources. For example, till now, no corpus is available. And total number of speakers is also very less. I think it is around 50,000 people in Manipur. And then 21,000 in the Herat area. And the language is enlisted as an endangered language by UNESCO. So for doing a computational work for languages like Vishnu Priya Manipuri, it is very challenging. And to the best of our knowledge, the present work based on the available publication is the first of its kind in this direction. So now a brief introduction to part of speech tagging. As I have already told, a part of speech tagging is the process of labeling the lexical items to its corresponding lexical categories. For example, we have to identify whether a word is noun or a verb or an adjective. That is our objective. And the labeling is done based on various morphological, semantic, and contextual behaviors. And another challenging task is that for a morphologically rich language, the task of PS tagging is not trivial because a huge number of inflections like prefixes, suffixes are available. So it is very difficult for a morphologically rich language, and Vishnu Priya Manipuri language is also a morphologically rich language. So to carry out a task like PS tagging is not trivial. And these are some available tags we have used during the manual tagging of our corpus. Altogether, we have used 22 tags for manual tagging, and I have tagged around 2,400 sentences for designing the corpus. And on that corpus, we have done the experiments using CRP. These are 3 sentences of Vishnu Priya Manipuri languages. They are tagged using the tags I have already shown. Here NN means noun, and then JJ means adjective, and then PM is a modal verb. It is already there in this list, in this table. So these are some examples of text sentences in our corpuses. And these are some literature survey for CRF methods. Now a brief introduction to conditional random field. It is a class of discriminative models which are mainly used for predicting tasks or prediction tasks, where the contextual information or the state of neighbors is used for predicting the future predictions. And here the main part is the feature function. And the features we have used in the label of the previous two words in our example. To predict the current tag of the current word, we have used the previous text of the previous two words. This is our proposed architecture. First, we have collected the raw text, and then we have done pre-processing to delete some unnecessary words. And after that, we have done some annotation using manual tagging. And then after that, we have designed the corpus. After that, features we have selected as the previous two words labels and some suffixes. And after that, we have applied the CRF model. And finally, we have trained the model and then validated the results. This is the graphical structure of the CRF model. From the graph, you can see that to predict the tag of this xi word, we have used the label of yi-1. This previous word tag and previous word, we have used this word and its corresponding tag word for predicting this word's tag yi. And the formula we have used for calculating the probability is this one: E equal to 1 by z naught experimental, and then sigma equal to 1 to t. And this one is the feature function. As I have already told, that yi-1 is the label of the previous word, and this one is the current word. Xi is the current word, and y will be the predicted tag, and I is the position of the current word. And for experimental purpose, we have used the scikit library, CRF suite library, and for using that library, first we have to convert the text data into a format that is suitable for CRF suite library. And this is the one example of a sentence that we have converted to CU and LL format for using the CRF suite library. And after that, the features we have considered as the previous two words labels, and using those two features, we have calculated the probability using the conditional probability distributions. And these are the experimental results of her. And we have compared the accuracy with some state-of-art approaches like analytic bigram and analytic trigram. And this is the accuracy of our proposed approach, CRF-based approach, which is 86.21. This is above all three approaches. On the conclusions and feature work, here the main challenge we have faced that our method is not able to detect the level of some unknown words. So for that purpose, we have to increase the size of the corpus. And in future, we are going to increase the size of the corpus to improve the accuracy and to handle these errors. Okay, sir. And these are some of the references. Thank you.
So any questions? So you have mentioned that you have used conditional.
It's a conditional probability. CRF model mainly uses conditional probability. Yes, sir, for predicting the levels.
So instead of CRF-based, you use tagging.
Yes.
So what are the other methods you have started on this language?
So after naive-based and support vector machine, and then naive-based, this can also be used, but the accuracy is less than the CRF algorithm. That is why I am going in the direction of CRF.
These are the.
Yes, sir.
So also you have reported that you have compared.
Yes, sir. Compared
the
instead of
other existing
groups of methods.
Yes, sir.
Those are the.
Yes, sir. Mainly, I have compared with NLTK diagram and NLTK diagram approach. I have compared with these two methods, not with SVM, the NLTK diagram and NLTK diagram.
Any more questions?
In your flow chart,
Yes.
there was a command validation.
Yes.
Training and validation.
Yes.
What exactly validation we do in this application?
Yes, sir. We check the manual leveling, and then the result of the proposed process, we manually check whether it is coming or not in the right direction. In that way.
You did this with the stored in the same, or you did with the real speaker?
No, sir. Stored data set. Stored text data sets. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so title of the next presentation is Component Adaptive Based One Fast Presentation for Hyperspectral Image Classification. The presenter of this paper is Amos Godwin, and it is co-authored by Dipak. So Amos, as usual, you will be given 10 minutes for your presentation and 2 minutes for answering questions. So you may start now.
So I would like to, first of all, give a good afternoon to respected teachers and my fellow scholars who are present here and anyone who is present here. So I would like to also say thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present our work in this conference. And so basically the title of our conference is, or the title of our work is Component Adaptive Superpixel Based Joint Sparse Presentation for Hyperspectral Image Classification. So this is our work between me and my supervisors, and we're both from the Department of Computer Science from Tesco University. Now you can see the name here, hyperspectral image. Now I just want to, first of all, just to present to you what a hyperspectral image is. Maybe not all of you are well aware of this. So we all know digital images, and that is, it have an RGB bands, red, green, and blue. And maybe most of you also know what is a multispectral image, which is that it takes the reading of the reading of the near infrared and shortwave infrared. So they have at most 12 bands as such. But when we're talking about hyperspectral image, this is actually it consists of hundreds of bands. So it consists like 100 or 200 bands. So that's what a hyperspectral image is. Now, because of the large number of bands, so they offer, So they offer very rich information. They offer very rich information for us to analyze. And here, when we're talking about hyperspectral image, we're dealing with satellite images. And so they can be used for various purposes. And the first application is, of course, hyperspectral image classification, which is very important and considered vital in today's scenario, especially in remote sensing. Now, what that is basically given an image. So an image, we all know it has pixels. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to classify that pixels, okay, based on the training samples that we have. And there are many classifiers as such. Neural networks, ensemble classifiers such as random forest. We've seen deep learning nowadays, and super vector machine. These are all used for this very purpose of of classifying the hyperspectral image. And various application we can see in remote sensing, obviously, is environmental monitoring, forest monitoring, crop analysis, land cover analysis, change detection, and many more. So what we are working on is basically sparse representation classification. Now, this is a technique or a model that has been used very widely, and especially in recent years. and has gained a large, I would say like a good track, as many researchers are working on it, especially nowadays. And so what it does is basically it represents this unlabeled pixel X as a linear combination of those string samples. Okay, and we have a set of label samples and we store them in a matrix called a dictionary. Okay, we store them in the dictionary, and what we try to do is we have this unlabeled pixel, and we'll try to approximate this pixel using those label samples that are there in the dictionary. So, and finally, what we try to do is, now I told you that we have label samples. So the class which gives me the best approximation for this unlabeled pixel, so that will be assigned to this unlabeled pixel. Okay, the class that gives me the best approximation. So this is basically this formula here basically just says that only. The class that gives me the best approximation, so that will be assigned to that unlabeled pixel. And basically, let me explain better with this diagram that I present here. So we have here a pixel on the left side, and we have here 3 classes, and we store them in a dictionary. And basically, what we try to do is we try to represent this pixel using the using the label samples that are here in the dictionary, and the sparse coefficient will measure us the weight of those atoms. Okay, so that was it basically is. So we can see here in this example. So we're trying to approximate this pixel that are present here using 3 atoms or 3 labeled pixels, and then we will try to do a class by class fashion. That means first we'll try to use class 1 to approximate the pixel. We'll try class 2, we'll try to approximate the pixel, and class 3 to approximate the pixel, and the one that gives me the best approximation, I will say that unlabeled pixel belongs to that class. So in this specific diagram, we can see that there's no atoms that has been selected by class 3, so it gives us a very bad approximation of that pixel. But we can see from the diagram that we can assume that if the weight of class 1 is more, we can say that this pixel belongs to class 1. Okay, so basically that is what sparse representation is. So what is the main motivation of our work is that we see that these single pixel classifiers that we have nowadays, mostly, especially when we're dealing with this hyperspectral image. Now, hyperspectral image is by itself very noisy in nature, and also that in remote sensing, we all know that there's limited label samples. Now, it's very difficult to get label samples because, first of all, like we need photo interpretation by an expert, which is again costly, and the second one is we need field survey. So we have to go for field survey, and it's very difficult to collect label samples in remote sensing. So one solution is we add contextual information. We add contextual or spatial information to this. Now, how do we do this? Basically, we do this by using either a fixed size window. So we took a window and we say that every pixel in this region, we'll consider them as neighbor pixels or spatial information for my central pixel that I'm going to classify. And then there's another one that is adaptive window. Yeah, adaptive window means using superpixels. Superpixels, what we call it. And so basically they use segmentation algorithms. Now, from this image itself, I'll try to explain what are the disadvantages of this. Now we see here in this image using a fixed square window. So it doesn't give us the actual neighborhood of that pixel. You see that it includes other classes as well. So that is the advantage of the fixed size window. And when it comes to segmentation algorithms, now segmentation algorithms, it requires some prior information. That means it requires some information about the landscape that we're going to classify, because we need to know how many superpixels we need. We need to know how many superpixels we need to segment that particular image. So that's why that's the disadvantage of these two approach. And so what we've done is we'll find a better way to acquire the spatial information using the connected components. We use the connected components. So basically connected components are, what we can say is that they are, from the name itself, we can understand. So basically, it's basically a component that have various pixels connected to it. Various pixels that are connected together that have the same characteristics. So we call them as connected. And then since those pixels, they form one object, so we call that a component. Okay? We call that a component. So that is the most, I would say, the simple definition. So what we've done is we've provided a novel method to generate superpixel. And instead of using segmentation algorithms, so like I said, we're going to use image connected components in order to incorporate spatial information. Now, what we found is that this method, it produced better or similar accuracy than the current state of the art. So the proposed method now, in order to deal with this image connected component, how do we process this? Do we process this using attribute filtering? Attribute filtering. So we process using this attribute filtering. Basically, it follows 3 steps. First of all, the step 1 is max tree construction, which basically tells us that we're going to take the connected component and we're going to represent them in the form of a max tree. Okay, we're going to present them in the form of max tree. And then after that, we'll do some filtering. So we'll have some criterion, maybe let's say an area. What we're trying to do is basically we'll say that if this component is lesser than, let's say if we consider area, and say let's say that let's say we've put a threshold of 50 pixels. So if this connected component is less than that 50 pixels, if the area of this connected component is less than 50 pixels, then what we're going to do is we're going to merge them to the parents. We're going to merge them to the parents or to the bigger connected component. We can think of it in that way. And so finally, image restitution after filtering. So what we're trying to do is we'll try to restore that image back to generate a filtered image. So basically, let me explain it again using this very simple diagram. So we have here, this is a toy image, so we can see a toy image, and it has various connected components, as you can see. So it has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Okay, and the number that is after the alphabet, it represents the gray level or the value, okay, the pixel value. You can think of like that. So 0 is the pixel value 0, that means represents the background. Now the criterion that we've choose is area, and the threshold that we've used for the specific this image is 20 pixels. And we've made assumptions that the area of B1, as you can see here, and then E1, all of these small connected components, so they are lesser than the threshold. Okay. Then basically, like I told you, then comes the tree construction, where basically we are creating the tree, what we call the max tree. And then, so in this creation of max tree, if we took basically you can see that there are So like I said, so we have here these various connected component, and we make the assumptions that there are some kind of components that are lesser than the threshold. Okay. So why do we put this threshold? Because when we put a threshold, we make the assumption that some components are very small, so they cannot give us any information. So we want to remove them. Some information are very small, so we want to remove them. So that's why we put the threshold. And so, but what we found, so this is the max tree that I've told you. And what we've seen here is that I've told you that B1 and then E1, G, and H, they are all below the threshold. But using the conventional approach, what we found was that they are still retained. They are still retained even though they are lesser than the threshold. They are not removed. Even though we've considered them as not important, that they are just noise, we can think of it as just noise, but still like they're still retained. So we cannot use our spatial information effectively in this case. So that's why we cannot get the actual neighborhood of the image in this case if there are these noise or if there are these connected components that are considered irrelevant. And so what we've proposed is this attribute filtering where we combine the construction and the filtering together. We've combined this construction and the filtering together. That means while we are creating the tree, we are also filtering at the same time. And finally, the outcome, once we get the final tree, will just restore that tree to the image. Now, finally, what we've seen here is that this is another tree that we've created using the proposed approach. So the output, I would just say that if you look at the output, you can see that this is a max tree. So if you look at the output, you can see that all those connected components that are considered irrelevant have been removed or have been merged together with the parents, that have been merged together with their neighboring connected components. So what we get is that only the useful connected component that we want, or only the connected component that is greater than the threshold. Now this gives us a clear picture of what the difference is. Now I told you there are max tree and min tree as well. I've shown you in the slide. So this the image in B is the max tree of conventional method. Now you see here B, G, and H, they are still present in the image. But if you look here in D is the modified max tree that we have. So that one has been removed. And we look here in C also is it's a min tree approach. And so this one we see that I3 and E are still there, even though they're considered irrelevant. But we have here in the picture E, that has been removed. Okay, that have been removed. Now, looking at this modified max tree and modified min tree, we see that they are both similar, except that only one particular region is merged differently. So we can consider that as a region that is itself has another characteristics. And so what we're doing is basically we'll merge these two images together and will form, basically it will give us various regions. So we've merged these two together, and finally the area that is E, the connected component E, so that one has been separated and it gives us another region. That means that is, we can say that that is a region where it's doubtful, so we can classify that as separately, so that it won't affect the classification of others. And finally, once we have those regions, so we're going to feed it into this sparse representation classification. We're going to classify it using this sparse representation classification. Now, I told you there was earlier we used only single pixel, but now we've combined multiple pixels in the neighborhood. We've combined them together, and we're going to classify them together as one. So that's why we're given a superpixel X. Earlier it was just single X, and now we have superpixel X, and so we're classifying them together. And so finally, that will give us the class for that region. And for the experimental setup, what we have is two data sets here. These are two hyperspectral image, Pavia University and Indian Pine data set. So we can see the number of bands there is 103, and the size is 600 into 340, and here the number of bands is 200. And the classes there is 9, and here it's 16, okay? And the dataset details is basically here. We have not separated the training and test set ourselves, but we've used the standard training and test set that has been produced by the remote sensing community. And our comparison method is SLIC, iSLIC, ERS, entropy rate, superpixels. And these are most common or most basics most used algorithm for creating superpixels. And we've also compared with our two approach, that is one with cleanup and the other one without cleanup. And these are some of the threshold parameters that we've used. So basically the different criterion, yes, the different criterion that we've chosen. And the different size of this superpixel also we've generated so that it won't be biased. So we've generated the number of superpixels as well based on those criterion that we've selected. And finally, what we've obtained is that this is the results that we got. So based on the results that we've got, so we can see that our proposed approach in Private University, it gives better results. And in the Indian Pine, it gives similar results. Very close, but a little bit better. And so this is the classification map that we've obtained. So there is the ground truth in A, and the other one is represents for each technique. This is for Pavia University, and this is for the Indian Pine dataset. And so these are the classification map that we got. So finally, I would just like to say that when it comes to image, so adding contextual information always gives us better classification, better than traditional approach. But we can see that using fixed size, it has some disadvantage, as well as using segmentation algorithm also has disadvantage. So we've generated this connected component in order to use spatial information, in order to give us a better accuracy in terms of classification. So yeah, so that is, yeah, okay, thank you, sir. So these are references, thank you. If you have any questions.
So I think in your you have used different threshold values, right?
Yes, yes.
How you have chosen those threshold values?
Okay, so those threshold values, actually we have, like there are so many thresholds there. So in order to, we've just selected them at randomly, you can say, and then we've got this to so that we can compare it with other techniques as well.
Experimental.
Yes, experimental, yes. Yes, yes, experimental.
So have you thought of that to choose the threshold values? Analytically, is it possible to determine?
Yes. You mean like considering the like automatic threshold? Yes.
Nothing is automatic.
Yes, we can think. Yes, yes, semi-automatic. Yes, you can. Yes, that work has also been done. It is there attribute threshold free. It's there. It's already there.
Okay, good. Thank you. So next is paper ID 57, Amorto Pal. Title of the paper: Compact Multiband Bandpass Filter using substrate integrated waveguide and fractal resonators. So please come.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amartya Paul, and I have done my MTech from NEHU only. And today I have presented a paper on compact multiband bandpass filters using substrate indicator waveguide and fractal resonators. So here are the objectives, the content that I will be talking today, the objectives, the introduction, methodology, Hilbert fractal curve, dual band and triple band bandpass filters, conclusion and references. So in this paper, I have designed multiband bandpass filters using substrate indicated waveguide and fractal resonators. So firstly, I have designed a dual band filter using SIW to cater two pass band. It is 3.5 and 5.5 gigahertz. 3.5 we have used for 5G wireless communications, and for 5.5 we have used for wireless LAN signals. After that, we have designed a compact triple band bandpass filters, which caters at 6.6 gigahertz, and which is used to satisfy the demand of Wi-Fi 6E system. And we have verified these results and simulated the models using the CST software. So what is SIW? It is a synthetic rectangular EM waveguide formed in that galactic substrate, with densely arrayed bias holes, which connects the upper and lower metal plates of the substrate. This waveguide can be easily fabricated with low cost and using through-hole techniques, and it has similar guided wave characteristics. So in the typical SIW geometry, W is the distance between two via rows from center to center. But due to the circular size of the vias and space between them, we cannot use it directly. So we have to use effective width and effective length, whose formulas are given here. And to keep the radiation losses very small, we have to keep the recommended values of diameter, that is width by 5. So there are some more mathematical formulations, that is guided wavelength and resonant frequency. As you can see, these are the formulations. So what is the method to do this modeling? All the proposed models have been designed in CST, and first we have selected the dielectric constant and microscopic material. Then the cutoff frequency of the particular model is deduced from the given formula. After that, according to the cutoff frequency, the rest of the dimensions and parameters are calculated. The simulated results, that is the S parameters, are studied and analyzed, and the quality factor, return loss, insertion loss are all determined through the S parameters. So this is the Hilbert fractal curve, which we will connect over the SIW substrate. So this is here for the 3.5 gigahertz. A typical resonator is designed on a substrate along with 50 ohm input and output feed lines. In this design, the length of the resonator is 30.16 millimeter and width is 0.2 millimeter. So the dimensions are given here. So first we'll design the dual bandpass filter. This is the layout of this dual band filter. As you can see, the A part is the top view and B part is the back view. So in the top view, we have designed 2 Hilbert resonators of different dimensions, and in back side we have designed 2 Hilbert resonators. We have etched out the upper conductor layer. So as you can see, there is LE2 and S2. These are the parameters which can be varied to cater different pass bands. And we can also vary quality factor and multiple coupling coefficients using the LE2 and S2 or LE1 and S1. So these are the specifications for the design. Like we have catered 3.5 and 5.5 gigahertz. The values are used for 5G and WLAN band specifications. The fractional bandwidth is 15.8 and 8.1%. As you can see, we have used Chebyshev bandpass response with passband ripple of 0.1 dB. So the quality factor and coupling coefficients are calculated as such. This is the S parameter of dual band bandpass filter. As you can see, the S11 parameter is first giving the dip in 3.5 gigahertz, and the second is giving at 5.5 gigahertz. So as you can see, the first bandwidth for the first passband is 950 megahertz, and for the second passband is 375 megahertz. And you can easily see throughout the passband, the parameter S11 is below minus 10 dB, and the return loss, insertion loss is 1 dB. The size is 15 into 26 millimeter square. So for triple band, I have designed this structure, the same structure, but we have added 2 uniform impedance resonators below the Hilbert resonators. The size is same, but this structure can be used for triple band bandpass filter. And the third band is for 6.6 gigahertz, which we have used for Wi-Fi 6E systems. So this is the S parameter. As you can see, there are 3 dips now at 3.5, 5.5, and 6.6 gigahertz. And here the insertion loss is 2.2 dB, and you can easily see the size is same as 15 into 26 millimeter square. So this proposed work has been demonstrated using simulation tools, CST, to investigate the S parameters and analyze them. Dual band and triple band bandpass filters have been designed. The design is further extended with a triple band bandpass filter is implemented by introducing one more band centered at 6.6 gigahertz. And both the filter topologies are analytically studied and simulated for validation. The proposed filters have a very good compact size and good insertion loss and good return loss characteristics. So these are the references I have took. Thank you.
Any questions? I think you have used simulator, right?
Yes, simulation.
What kind of simulator you have used?
So CST Studio.
So have you used Simulink
No, sir.
or MATLAB
No, sir.
to design this?
No, sir.
So any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
these people who are working on data science basis this problem regularly. The title of the paper is IFS, and incremental feature selection method to classify high-dimensional. The present here is Nozul, and it is co-authored by A. Hussain, Hugo A. So, usually you can start your CV having 10 minutes for the presentation and 2 minutes for answer. So you can start your presentation.
A very good afternoon to all of you, our respected sirs, madam, my dear teachers, presenters, and ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Nozrul Haq from the Department of Computer Science, Manipur University, and today I am here to present our paper entitled IFS, an incremental feature selection method for classification of high-dimensional data. Basically, in this work, we have developed one incremental version of the feature selection method, and that incremental feature selection method considers data or data objects in some time interval. Generally, in normal feature selection method, they are applied on the whole set of data in once, and considering all the data objects together, the method selects the informative subset of features. But in case of incremental feature, the method doesn't consider all the data objects at once, but in certain time intervals, some group of objects will be considered, and based on the objects, some corresponding data profile will be generated, and gradually when the next interval of time, if some new objects or data objects arrives, then only the corresponding profile will be updated. Profile will be one, but the interval of data may be different. But when the data objects coming in the time 2 interval is considering, that time, the time 1 data will not be considered. And that's why this incremental version of the feature selection is very time efficient. And in many real life applications, especially in network traffic analysis, this type of incremental feature selection can perform traffic analysis in almost near real time. So this work is co-authored by Hassin Afzal Ahmed from Guwahati University and Professor Dipak from Pesco University. So now I'm coming to the outline. So the first, I'll be discussing about the feature selection and what are different approaches of feature selection, then what is the main motivation of this work, and some contribution, then the proposed incremental feature selection method, followed by the experimental analysis and conclusion. So now I'm moving to the feature selection. So feature selection is a very common work nowadays in machine learning works. People use the feature selection as a pre-processing step. Basically, suppose we have a large data set of high-dimensional data set. From the last feature pool, if we can select some informative features, then that is the feature selection. But the thing is that there is another concept called feature extraction also. But in case of feature extraction, we can extract some informative features by transforming or by combining some existing features without losing the actual meaning of the original data. So here, the main thing is that the feature selection selects an informative subset of features. But the thing is that how we can decide, how we can choose that which feature will be informative. So there will be some criteria. And based on the criteria, we can say, okay, this feature is informative, this is not informative. So that is the main critical things. How can we design the criteria or the objective function? And based on the objective function, you can make the ranking of the features. And once we make the rank, suppose I want to take 5 features or 10 features, accordingly you can select. But there are some deviation also based on the selection, that means based on the types of the approach. If we use, I'll be discussing those types also, filter, wrapper, or different types are there. Based on the type of the approach of the feature selection, the criteria may be different. But the main objective of feature selection is the dimensionality reduction. As I have already told, that if the data is very high dimensional, we need to reduce the dimension by removing the unnecessary features. And they minimize redundancy. Suppose out of n numbers of features, I have selected, suppose 5, 10 features. Among the selected subset of features, there should be always minimum redundancy. Again, second thing is that maximize the relevance. Relevance means, suppose if I am considering the class level, suppose supervised feature selection I'm using, if there is class level, then feature and class relevance should be very high. And we should select those features that has the highest feature class relevance. And finally, the most important one is that if we can select the most informative feature subset or the optimal subset of features, then that feature set always give high prediction accuracy or detection accuracy. So these are the main objective of feature selection. Then the incremental, why I'm telling it is an incremental feature selection is that traditional feature selection method considers all the data objects at once. And also during feature selection, they consider a class level also. But in case of incremental feature selection, we are not applying such type of concept. We don't consider the whole data objects or the class information in one go. We'll just split the data into multiple time intervals. Basically, it is most useful for time interval data analysis or time series data analysis, we can say. So if we apply the incremental feature selection, then it will take less computational time as compared to the non-incremental version. So this motivates actually to, from the time perspective, it motivates me to develop the incremental feature selection for network traffic analysis. So as I have mentioned, the types of feature selection approach may be filtered, wrapper, and embedded. In case of filter approach, what happens? Suppose we have n numbers of features, we'll apply some objective function or criterion function, and we'll evaluate the effectiveness of individual features, and then we'll select the required number of features. But here, no extra machine learning algorithm will be used. Without using any learning algorithm, we'll evaluate based on the objective function. But in case of wrapper, that's why the name is wrapper. One machine learning algorithm will be there with the selection criteria. So first, that means it may be forward feature selection or maybe backward feature selection. That means some possible, or that is all possible subset of features should be evaluated by some machine learning model, machine learning algorithm, and then it will pick up the base subset. Then in case of embed, that means during training time, suppose I am training a machine learning model, at the time of training itself, the feature selection will be performed, like the decision tree. If we compare the feature and wrapper approach from computational time point of view, filter approach is much better, but from performance point of view, wrapper method will be better because wrapper has performed exhaustive kind of searching, and from that all possible feature combination, it pick up the best one based on the accuracy given by the feature subset for a particular machine learning model. So the main motivation of this work is that for network traffic analysis, many times we need to perform real-time identification of traffic, whether it is malicious or not. So in that case, if we consider a huge traffic at once, and then we apply pre-processing or machine learning, that means feature selection things, traditional feature selection thing, then it will take a significant amount of computational time. And that's why instead of considering all the data objects in one go, suppose at time, first I'm considering suppose 5 minutes traffic. And whatever flow is generating from 5 minutes traffic, from that flow, I will make a profile. And for that flow, for that traffic generated for the first 5 seconds or 5 minutes. And that flow will be slow. Again, in the next time interval, suppose next 5 minutes, another group of traffic flows are coming. Then, without considering the first flow, we'll just update the profile. And that profile, making the profile is a bit complex. The profile we have to generate in such a way that it represents the whole data. Okay, so that is actually my basic motivation of developing the incremental feature selection. Then the contribution is that it's not very significant contribution. Only one incremental version of the feature selection is developed, and next the profile. The profile generation approach is our new contribution. So this is the proposed framework here. Suppose one new object is arising. So in that case, first what I will say, for that particular object, is there any profile? Profile means suppose the object belongs to class A, class B like that. That class is my profile. So if the object Y, for that object Y, if any profile exists, then we will simply update the profile. And if for that object there is no profile exists, then we will create a new profile. Now, what will be the profile? What will be the components in the profile item? Then, accordingly, the profile attributes will be updated for the next objects. And finally, we will compute for each feature, we will compute the relevance score. And once I have computed the relevance score, based on the relevance score, I can give the rank to the feature. And finally, base rank, suppose n numbers of base rank features I can select, and then selected subset of features we can give to any classifier, and the classifier will classify the objects. So these are the 4 parameters in the profile. The first parameter is the profile level. Level means the class level. If there are 3 classes, class A, class B, class C, then this first attribute of the profile will be class level. And next one is profile of object count. That means object count means in one class, how many objects belong to. In class A, if there are 100 objects, then object count would be 100. Then profile of representative. Representative means, suppose I am considering 5 features, then how the features are important, how much relevance the feature to that particular class. That representative parameter will give the feature representation experiment. And credibility score, this credibility score is most important. To identify the correct profile or the correct level, whether the features are relevant or not. So this credibility will basically, credibility and representative, these 2 parameters will be used to identify whether the features are important or not. Although I am not using any other objective function like filter, here only these 2 parameters are used to make the weight of to compute the weight of the individual features for each profile. Okay, so the profile generation, these 2 parameters, basically the representative factor and credibility factor. Here, the representative factor is nothing but the average of all the features. I will come to that point because suppose in time interval T1, whatever objects are there for each object and for each features, I am considering the average value. But this average is not static average. It should be, you can say, dynamic average. And that's why, although this equation looks very different, but it is computing only the average in an incremental manner. And the credibility score is nothing but if the feature is matching to the closest profile, then for that particular feature, the credibility is increased by 1. This is a very simple representation of credibility and credibility score as well as representative score. So this will be clear once I take the example. And finally, once I compute the credibility score and representative factor, from that credibility score, I can compute the feature weight for each individual feature. And now here, in this equation, the m represents the number of profiles. If there are 3 classes, that means 3 profiles, and this value will be m, that will be 3. So complexity, basically, the complexity of the algorithm depends on how many features I am considering and how many profiles I have maintained. So because our method computes the closest profile. If there are 3 profiles and number of features is n, then to find out the closest profile for each feature, it will be 3 into n. And finally, to compute the weight of each individual feature, it takes order of n times. So basically, total complexity will be order of m into n plus order of n. This is for, you can say, credibility score computation as well as the closest profile finding, and this is for feature ranking.
But it is equivalent to order of n
yes.
by n.
Yeah. Actually, n is very less as compared to n. If the number of features
is greater than 1.
Yeah.
So that's why it is equivalent to order of n by n.
Yes. And but from this complexity, I can ensure that traditional feature selection method, sometimes it is hard also. That means exponential time it takes. But as compared to that time, this linear time, I can say, That's why it is much better.
What would be the bound of
Sir, it depends on how many class levels are here. That is,
I think the aim is not a constant, so how can you say it is linear?
Because the maximum value aim can be n.
Worst case.
Worst case.
worst case, yeah. In the worst case,
Then it is
we'll order n square. Yeah, that is okay.
That's why.
But in general term, that means worst case is okay.
If it is constant, then you can say it is a linear, right?
Yeah.
If when it is not confirmed that it is not a constant, then you can't say, you can't confirm.
But the thing is that in real life scenario,
What you are saying?
So
Yeah.
that theory, what you are saying is that value of n can be much greater than n.
okay, yeah.
That you can say.
Yeah, that's true, sir. That's true. Yeah. So let's take this example. Suppose this is my data set with two class A and class B. There are 5 objects with 4 features. And some of features are numeric, some features are categorical. Now, initially, my system will generate profile. Suppose and it is
Exceeded your time.
okay, I'm just so suppose this object has arrived, and initially I don't have any profile. So for this object A, I have made an initial profile. And the initial profile I have already told. First parameter is the profile name, then number of objects, then the feature representation. Initially the feature value will be the feature representation, and credibility score is the initialize. I have initialized as 1, 1. Similarly for B also, same thing. B profile is not here, so I have generated the B profile. Now for object 3, when object 3 comes, then what will happen? Object 3 belongs to class A, so A profile will be updated to 2. And representative vector, the feature representative vector 1.5. Why 1.5? Because object 3 value is 1 and object 1 value, which is A, 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 divided by 2. Why? Because till now I am considering two objects. That's why 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. That's why this I am considering it's an array. And credibility score, see, for object A, the 1 is matching, that is its closest profile is class A. Why class A? Because class A representative vector is 2, 2 minus 1 is 1, and for class B, 6 minus 1 is 5. The lowest one is 1, that's why it is representing class A, and that's why the value will be 2. So this I have updated as 2. Similarly for this also, I will just say this value, that means this value is matching with suppose 1A, that's why this is increased. Okay, and finally, after considering all these objects, this will be the final profile for A and B, and from this final profile, we can compute the feature weight for each individual feature, and we can select the required number of features. So this whole method is experimented on 3 types of data. One is network intuition data, gene expression data, and usage data set. I am considering the gene expression data because generally the gene expression data is too dimension is too high. That's why. So on gene usage data set, these are the results only in highest data set. The performance is very low, but as compared to other method, I'm comparing with ReliefF, InfoGain, and WF SDMS method, and comparatively it is okay. Similarly, on colon cancer, so the proposed method is giving better result here also on using KNN, using decision tree. Okay, this is on SRBCT, and this is for network data, KDB data set. So in all cases, for some number of features it is giving better, but in some other features it is giving low. So finally, the conclusion is that the proposed incremental feature selection method yields high classification accuracy on various types of data. Performance of the method is better than other competent methods, and as a future work, I'm planning to develop a parallel version of the incremental feature selection method. So these are my references. Thank you all. If you have any questions.
Any questions?
Can you apply this technique in unsupervised?
No, this is purely supervised.
So next, paper ID 74, and presenter Prof. Bora. Please come. And title of the paper: Computer-aided identification of loop type ethnic textile. The user using texture features and random forest classifier. Okay, please. Just try to finish within 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Prof. Bora. I am a student of Cotton University. The topic of my presentation is computer-aided identification of loom type of ethnic textile, the gamusa, using feature extraction and random forest classifier. These are the index which I am going to cover. The introduction. I think many of you know what is gamusa. Gamusa is a piece of rectangular cloth which have red borders on its three sides, and it's considered as pride of Assam and Assamese community, and it is a symbol of honor and respect, and also it is a very significant part of Assamese handloom industry. These are the images of production of handloom gamusa. These are some processes. But unfortunately, the gamusa handloom industry is going dying due to the mushrooming of immediate powerloom products. As you know, the production of powerloom gamusas increases day by day, which due to this, our local handloom industry is dying day by day. So, besides this, it is hard to distinguish the loom type of the gamusa, whether it's handloom or powerloom. So our objective is to design an automated system which can detect the loom type of the gamusa, which will be very time effective and cost effective also. So in existing system, to differentiate the handloom or powerloom, only expert can differentiate it properly by some analyzing some properties on its manual check. They analyze some cloth material, whether it's soft or stiff. They analyze warp and weave, even or uneven. They analyze the thread, which thread are used. Also, they analyze the edge, whether it's straight or whether it's finely finished or dead. So our proposed system is to design the automated system which can identify the handloom gamusa. Also, our proposed method tries to bridge the gap between the quantitative and quantitative analysis, which can help to design a robust automated system for classification. These are the literacy review, and this is a contribution of our work. Our current study is a novel framework for handloom gamusa identification. We have generated 7,200 images of different loom types, and the images, textile features have been computationally analyzed using DWT technique, using GLCM technique, using histogram technique, and also analyzing porosity also. So this is our first attempt in such a multidisciplinary feature extraction and selection and classification strategy together for loom type classification and for learning. So this is the overview of our methodology. We have used different techniques here, which I'm going to explain. First, this is an image acquisition. In this module, we have generated the databases. For generating databases, we have collected 20 gamusa sample from each loom type. And after that, we have captured 20 images from each gamusa. From each gamusas are mainly from body part. And after capturing that images are sliced into 9 parts. So finally, we have found 3,600 images of gamusa loom, of handloom, and 3,600 for power loom. And finally, we have created the databases, which is total of 7,200 images. This is the example of handloom and power loom. In this way, the database is generated. Next, we are going to pre-process that images. The main purpose of pre-processing is that to reduce noises and increase the enhance the quality of the images. For that, we have used two techniques, Clarion Gaussian filter, but we are select only one. For that, we are evaluating the root mean square value. This box plot diagram demonstrates the root mean square value associated with each technique. Here you can see that the Gaussian filter has lower root mean square value. So as we know that lower is the root mean square value, it's good for selection. So for further analysis, we have selected the Gaussian filter for pre-processing technique. And next is, this is the most important part, which is feature extraction. We have extracted the features from the images. There is a DW, descriptive transform, GLCM, gray level co-occurrence matrix, histogram analysis, and porosity. We have extracted this from the images. These are done on the basis of how features experts can differentiate the gamusaludab. To differentiate the gamusaludab, they analyze the texture features manually. They analyze the porosity features manually. So we are trying to extract the features from that images by computation or by this way. You can see that in example here is the porosity. For the porosity analysis, we have considered the numbers of pores in that part of area. We have considered the maximum area, minimum area for each gamusa images. In this way, you have feature extraction is done. Next part is feature selection. We are going to select the best significant features. The main purpose is that for selecting best significant features, our classification result will be more efficient. So for that, we have performed the statistical t-test. We have performed statistical t-test on each feature set, and we are going to evaluate the significance value. Here is the table which demonstrates the significance value related with each features. We are going to consider only highly significant value, which have a threshold, which are if features significance value is less than 0.01, it will indicate that it has high significance. So in case you can show here the histogram, the first table. Features before selection is 6, but after there is a 5, because that energy features which have significance value 0.479, which is quite higher. So we can ignore that. Similarly, in case of DWT, there are 8 features, but we are going to select 7 features as the high variance has 0.124 value, which is quite larger significance value. So you can ignore that as it has indicated lower significance. So now our feature sets are completely designed for classification. For the classification, we are going to use the most popular machine learning classifier, random forest classifier. For that, we are going to design different possible combination using DWT, histogram, GLCM, and porosity. The table shows that 15 possible combination. D means DWT, H means histogram, G means GLCM, P means porosity, and G plus H means combination of GLCM and histogram. Similarly, combination H plus P plus D means combination of histogram, porosity, and DWT. And we apply random forest classifier in each feature set. And finally, we have found that result. This is the result. The combination of GSPD feature set performed quite well, and it gives 97.5% accuracy. It gives not only the accuracy, but also gives quite precision, recall, and F1 score value also. It has about 98% precision, recall, F1 score value related with each loop type. These are the confusion metrics associated with each feature set. These confidence metrics played vital role for the evaluation of our classification. These are the classification reports. I have highlighted the GSPD feature sets classification report down on the table. You can see here. So these are conclusion. So from our study, it can be concluded that we can implement our proposed work in real life successfully, because we have our proposed method uses texture features to distinguish the loom type, and it has 97.5% accuracy. So our method successfully implemented the ML and AI-based technique to detect the type of loom type and to provide the scientific basis for their manual processes. And in future, with additional features and more variation of the ITM resulting more diverse images can be incorporated to make the algorithm more robust. Although the system can be scaled into other items of fabric also. So thank you. These are the references. Thank you. I'll be very grateful if you have any questions.
Any questions? Okay, go to the slide 4.
Slide
4.
4. Yeah. This is the existing system, how the features, how the expert can detect the handling and powering manually.
You have used texture feature and
Structure. These features are used by the experts. They manually, they check manually by physically. They check the porosity, they analyze the structure.
so have we incorporated their expertise knowledge in your algorithm?
We have regarding these features, we have tried to extract the features from the images. So for that, we have used DWP GLCM porosity. This DWP GLCM porosity histogram is for texture features, porosity for structural features.
How you have chosen these type of features? From the expert knowledge?
Yes, from the expert knowledge, from expert knowledge, on how they going to distinguish the.
Go to the slide number 12.
Slide number 12.
Here you have stated that H plus B.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So is it equivalent or same to P plus H?
Yes.
Think about it.
Okay. Yes.
Understood.
Understood. Yes, there's a table there.
Whether you are applying the H method, then output of that you are giving input to P.
No.
What actually you are doing? Do you explain?
Suppose first we have main D H
plus
G.
Just to explain one example, H plus P. In case of H plus P, what actually you are doing?
We have combined the two tables.
How you are combining?
From there are two tables in CSV format and convert to pandas theories and likewise.
So have you explained that H plus P and P plus H both are giving the same thing?
No, I haven't tried.
Theoretically, are you getting some idea?
Theoretically, maybe it's same. Not I can compare.
So any more questions? Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Title of the next presentation is Scanning Characters Existence, Optimization and Extension in Mean Graph. Presenter is Chinmoy Vedna, and it is coauthored by Ishana Dipak, Ritu Mandal, and Paul Kumar.
Honorable chairs, respected teachers, and all my co-presenters. I'm Chinmoy Devnath, the first author of Spanning Characters Existence, Optimization, and Extension of Windmill Graphs. Cactus is a subgraph that actually contains some cycles. If exist in a graph, then all the edges of the graph exactly contained in one cycle. For comparison purpose, we may use the spanning tree, minimum spanning tree. A graph is given, and the minimum spanning tree of that graph is also there. Here, all we know that there always exists a spanning tree, minimum spanning tree in a graph, if the graph is weighted. There, the usefulness of minimum spanning tree is mentioned, is all we know. The minimum spanning tree is a tree where, so the edge connectivity is 1. It has been experienced that if MST is taken for constructing a backbone of a communication network, then that may be very unreliable because of its edge connectivity, single edge connectivity. Here, one remedy can be proposed, that is a cactus. It is a very simple model. Here, edge connectivity is 2, and it is more reliable. Clearly, it enhances the reliability and reduces the probability of disconnection of networks.
Is this an example of cactus graph?
Yes, sir, this is a cactus graph.
It consists of complete graph connected to a single vertex.
Yes,
So here, is it complete?
a cactus is a graph where each and every edge is contained in exactly one cycle. There may be some articulation point. This is a simple tree structure, and this is a cactus. Application of cactus in traffic estimation, genome comparisons, and wireless sensor networks, even in representing the cuts of a graph, this model can be used. The definition is given here, the cactus and a similar subgraph, partial cactus, where every edge can be contained in at most one cycle. This is a partial cactus, or a single edge that is actually doesn't belong to any cycle, may be allowed. So cactus is a bridgeless partial cactus. But there may not be a spanning cactus in every graph, in a graph. So the existence problem is very relevant. This is known as spanning cactus existence problem, where the testing is done whether there exists a spanning cactus or not. Earlier. Suppose the graph G1 is given, the spanning cactus of G1 is there. And another graph G2, here a spanning cactus doesn't contain due to this single edge. And a graph may contain many spanning cacti if the graph is weighted, then the optimization can be fruitful. Suppose this graph, there are 3 cactus is presented. One is of course 33, another 31 and 33. So the minimum one among these is very important. This is known as minimum spanning cactus problem. We define this here. And another problem, the third problem, that is spanning cactus extension problem. Suppose we are given a partial cactus of a graph. Now, constructing that partial cactus to a spanning cactus is of high interest. This problem is called actually spanning cactus extension problem. Spanning cactus extension problem in general graph is NP-complete problem. It is also NP-complete in directed version. Suppose a spanning partial cactus of this graph is given. Now we will construct the spanning cactus of this partial cactus using 2 edges in this case using green lines, and here using 3 edges of red edges. See, here in these cactus, the newly added edge cost is 19. And in this case, that is cost 21. So the minimum one is of our main interest. 3 problems stated so far: spanning cactus existence problem, minimum spanning cactus problem, and minimum spanning cactus extension problem have been considered on complete graphs only. Here we study the same problems in a special graph, windmill graph. This is a windmill graph. Here, m number of components, each of which are actually kn, complete graph. And all these kn are sharing a common vertex. We may say it universal vertex v that is contained in all kn. Properties. Windmill graph is non-Hamiltonian as the central vertex or universal vertex is a card vertex. Windmill graph is non-planar for n greater than 4 because we know k5 onwards is non-planar graph. There exists a spanning cactus of every windmill graph. By construction, we may see that every kn can make a cycle, so they are merging results as spanning cactus. Now we consider the second problem, minimum spanning cactus problem. For this, we may restrict the instance of the problem when m equal to 1. That is a complete graph. Since in our earlier work and another work covered is, it has been shown that the minimum spanning cactus problem in a complete graph is NP complete. So we may conclude that the minimum spanning cactus problem in a weighted windmill graph is also NP complete. Now, the minimum spanning cactus problem, extension problem in windmill graph. We may refer to Kavadipunen and another work. The spanning forest can be extended to a cactus in a complete graph if and only if there exists a vertex of even degree. From that theorem, we may state that a spanning forest F in a windmill graph is cactus extendable if and only if F has a vertex of even degree in each of its trees in each complete graph Kn. So, theorem 4, spanning cactus extendability of a forest F in a windmill graph can be tested in linear time. To do this, we only have to check the degree of all vertices of individual subtrees of the forest. So it takes linear time. If F is cactus extendable in the windmill graph, then we focus on finding the minimum spanning cactus extension of the forest in the windmill graph. The minimum spanning cactus extension of a forest in a windmill graph can be computed in order of mn cube time, where m is the number of complete graphs and n we know the number of vertices in the complete graph. This is very easy. Actually, there are m number of complete graphs sharing a single vertex. And a complete graph can be, in a complete graph, the spanning forest can be extended to a minimum spanning cactus in order of n cube time. So here, the overall time complexity order of mn cube. Sorry, repeat it. No, sir. Can be. So, we can conclude that there exists a spanning cactus in every windmill graph. Next, we have shown that the minimum spanning cactus problem on a windmill graph is NP complete. We also presented a necessary and sufficient condition for spanning cactus extendability of a forest in a windmill graph. Finally, we have shown that minimum spanning cactus extension on a windmill graph can be solved in order of m n cube time. Yes, sir. Which one? Number 2. Yes, that is NP complete. Since all the complete graph is NP complete, in a complete graph, the minimum spanning cactus problem is NP complete. Since a windmill graph is actually
Why is there 1 minus 2 complete?
that is in our earlier work. That is referred actually. That is yes, sir. Number 6.
In the abstract also you have claimed this. That's necessary to
Actually, that is done for complete graph, but in windmill graph, that is new result. For
why is the formal proof of that?
in that paper, that is little. So actually, we refer the result, and using that result of complete graph, we conclude that the same is true for windmill graph.
So any questions? Why I am asking is that the claim you have made is very strong.
Yes, sir.
You have written that you have proved that this problem is NPR wrong, but I didn't see any formal proof of that claim in your presentation. I don't know whether you have given it in the text.
So actually, I'm repeating this.
Okay, no problem. So if you want,
So actually, that is complete graph, and all the parts are NP complete. So overall graph is NP complete.
ASAP corner good, otherwise the claim is very strong. That's why I'm asking. Okay, thank you.
So next paper ID 88, and paper title is Convolution Auto-encoder based models for image denoising, a competitive study. So presenter is Dr. Apurba. Please.
Respected chairs, dignitaries, and delegates. I am Dr. Ayatullah Farooq Mullah, an assistant professor of Computer Science and Engineering Department of Alia University, Kolkata. I am going to present my paper entitled Convolutional Autoencoder Based Models for Image Denoising Comparative Study. Basically, This is based on project work of one of my students, Roshanara Begum. The outline of the presentation is broadly like this. At first, we will have some introductory discussion, related works, and the motivation of this work. Then I will be presenting the models that we have considered for the comparative study. And then we'll discuss the results, some analysis on observations, and eventually we will have conclusions. Noise often gets introduced in images due to many reasons, like acquisition, representation, or transmission. So noise elimination is an important research task. The early noise elimination techniques extensively relied on various filters and transforms. But later, we have seen that many learning-driven approaches are coming out and being applied, particularly with the advent of autoencoder. Deep denoising is gradually becoming a reality. Many of you might know that the basic autoencoder consists of three major modules. The first one is the encoder. The second one is the bottleneck, and the third one is the decoder. And such autoencoder models can be applied in denoising images also. Later on, when convolution is being increasingly applied in artificial neural networks, such convolutional operations are also being applied with encoders, and by doing so, we have convolutional autoencoders. And convolutional autoencoders are being increasingly applied in image denoising also. It is being applied in various problems. In short, what we understand is image denoising has been studied for a long period, but it remained a critical and partially solved problem because image denoising is an inverse problem with no unique solution from a mathematical standpoint. Convolutional autoencoder is a major breakthrough in image denoising or image reconstruction. However, there can be various models of convolutional autoencoders, but studies on performance of those models have not yet done in adequate quantity. In this paper, we have studied 3 models of convolutional autoencoders, and we have tried to assess them, evaluate them empirically. And such study eventually reveals the power of such models while reducing the latent representation. We have already mentioned that autoencoders consist of three parts: the encoder, the bottleneck, and the decoder. The encoder part compresses the data, in this case the image. The bottleneck layer holds the compressed version of the data, and the decoder uncompresses or reconstructs the original data as much as possible, as close as the original data as possible. No, it is lossy. It is lossy. The three models that we have included in our study is like model 1, model 2, and model 3. In the first model, let us also note that the dimension of the input images which we have considered for our experiments is 28 by 28. So in this case, the bottleneck layer, the dimension of the data at the bottleneck layer is also 28 cross 28. So this model is not actually reducing the dimension. So why have we considered? We have considered to take it as a benchmark, that if we do not compress, then how much image denoising do we obtain? And if we compress, as we have done in model 2 and model 3, how much denoising we obtain? So in case of model 2, we can see that the dimension of the bottleneck layer is 14 by 14. That means each dimension of the original images is being halved. 28 is becoming 14. Right? Then in the third model, we have reduced the dimension further. So the dimension of the bottleneck layer is 7 cross 7. From 28 cross 28, we are reducing to 7 cross 7. And by applying the transpose convolution or inverse convolution at the decoder, we are reconstructing. Okay. So these are the three models that we have considered. For carrying out experiments, we have considered the publicly available and popular Fashion MNIST dataset, which is publicly available at the given link. It contains 70,000 images of 28 cross 28 pixels dimension. And these images belong to 10 different categories. So there are 10 different classes. The training set contains 60,000 images and the test set contains 10,000 images. We can see some samples from this data set here. There are 10 classes. Just for our quick comprehension, we have shown 5 different classes. One sample from 5 different classes. And the parameters that we have used in different layers are mentioned in the figures, and some are mentioned here. No, these are examples from the data set. Okay, examples from the data set. For evaluation of performance, that means how much noise reduction is being done, we have considered the evaluation measure, the popular evaluation measure, that is PSNR, peak signal to noise ratio. It basically refers to the ratio of signal's maximum possible power to the power of the noisy signal. So in the context of image denoising, we can take the original image at one side and the reconstructed image, the noise eliminated image at the other side. And by taking these two, we are comparing and we are computing the measure, PSNR. The expression is like this. Here what we can note is O refers to the obtained image, D refers to the original image. Okay? And IJ refers to different position, different pixel coordinates. So by employing these expressions, we have obtained the PSNR. Here we have shown the reconstruction. The original images, some sample original images have been shown at the top, and then we have injected some noises. We have injected Gaussian noises of 3 different quantities of 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. And we have experimented that if we inject noise at different quantities, how much noise reduction is taking place. So for noise factor 0.1, we can see the noisy images are these. These are the original images. After injecting noises of quantity 0.1 of noise factor 0.1, these are the noisy images. And the reconstructed images with model 1 are like this. Reconstructed images with model 2 are like this. And the same for model 3 are at the bottom. The quantitative figures are like this. The 3 different models for 3 different noise levels, the obtained mean PSNR are like this. So we have to keep in mind that the higher the PSNR, the better the reconstruction. Okay? And we can see that in case of model 1, which does not compress at all, the PSNR is 30, nearly 30. And for the other 2 models, for model 2, it is 29 point something. For model 3, it is 27. So 29 and 27 are very close to 30. It clearly indicates that convolutional autoencoder is very efficient in reducing noises. And we can also notice that the bottleneck size decreases from model 1 to model 3, and the performance also decreases. It is understood because the size of a latent tensor is gradually less. Additionally, it may be noticed that when the noise factor is less, reconstruction is better, and that is expected. So eventually, what we can conclude is we have implemented 3 different models of convolutional autoencoders, and it is evident that convolutional autoencoder is very, very powerful in reconstructing image from noisy version. And all the 3 models that we have considered are found to yield reasonably fair representation of original images because all the mean PSNR are above 25. However, reconstruction heavily depends upon the size of the latent tensor of the bottleneck layer. We can also realize that the higher the size of the tensor of the bottleneck layer, the better the reconstruction. Accordingly, it is noticed that the reconstruction is better in case of model 1 than that of model 3. But the reconstruction of model 3 is also reasonably fair. I mean, it is very much close to the original image. In our future work, we can extend this work in a number of directions, like we can consider other types of noise, we can consider other models of convolutional autoencoders, and we can also consider multiple data sets instead of one. So these are some of the future plans which we have. Thank you.
any questions, you can take up.
Sir, one thing that I need to ask you, whether will perform, how it will perform in some audio samples. Some audio samples. How we may convert the audio into an image. Then we implement this over and conversion to the so whether it will be working in the same way.
Yeah, if you convert any data into two-dimensional matrix form, image is nothing but a two-dimensional data, two-dimensional, matrix. So any type of data like the one you said, you can convert it into matrix form and you can apply such models directly. In addition to that, convolutional autoencoder is also available for one-dimensional data. In fact, on one-dimensional data, because conv1D layer is also available in Keras, in TensorFlow Keras library. So if you have one-dimensional data like sound, you can also apply directly. Okay, hope that answers. Yeah, sure.
So what are the different kind of noises you have considered?
In this work, we have considered only one type of noise. That is Gaussian noise. Yeah. We have not experimented noisy images related to medical fields, but the type of noises are like that. There are some standard common types. Yeah, salt and pepper, Gaussian.
During
Yeah.
your experiment, you have taken the noisy images or you have taken noise-free images, then you have embedded some noises, Gaussian noise.
Yes.
Then you have experimented and then you check the PSN.
Right. We have taken the original images, we have introduced noises, and from the noisy images, we have reconstructed and compared with the original images. How much close it is with the original images.
But is there any standard benchmark images available? I don't know. Where only the Gaussian noises are there, right? So that you can experiment that how much noise is there. Because this is your synthetic data, right?
Yeah, actually for noisy images, actual ground truth may not be available. Because
for a particular type of noise.
Yeah, because any image that we acquire is actually having noises. The actual expected intensities plus, if we consider the noise model, the actual intensities plus the noise intensities give us the acquired images. So the actual ground truth is not available. So whatever we have to, we'll have to proceed with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all the presenters for sharing your brilliant ideas and knowledge among us. Thank you to both the chairman, Dr. Apurba Sarkar and Dr. Dipak Kole for the honor. I would like to request Professor S.C. Arya sir to felicitate Dr. Apurba Sarkar. Yes. I would like to request Dr. Pankaj Sarkar sir to felicitate Dr. Dipak Kole. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And now we have a lunch break, so I request everyone to join us for the lunch downstairs. Thank you, everyone.